And so when we talk about therapy animals, a lot of people kind of get confused with therapy animals versus service animals. Like we'll have sometimes therapy animals that do activities to encourage participation, like in physical therapy. What's better motivation to be like, wait, Poppy, the mini horse is going to come walk along with me? Yes, I'm going to get up out of this bed and do that.
Yeah.
There's 9 species of therapy animals in our program. And it's just wonderful because you can see faces light up, particularly when it may be one of these less common types of animals walking into a facility. Like imagine you're in your nursing home and you see this mini horse coming by for a visit. It just really, it makes people so excited.
Well, welcome back to the Middle Perk. We're super excited with a special guest today, Traci Pryor. She's the Chief Development Officer for Pet Partners, and she's been in that role since 2014. She's also responsible for creating many national signature events and initiatives for Pet Partners, including the Animal Assisted Workplace Wellbeing Program, the world's largest pet walk, and National Therapy Animal Day. Traci originally worked with Aetna to pilot their workplace therapy animal program, and since then she went into Pet Partners. But now, and she's done work with Intel, Farmers Insurance, the National Basketball Association, Google, and Microsoft. She's also a professional speaker on national platforms and radio broadcast, and she promotes therapeutic benefits of our furry companions and mental success in the workplace. In addition to that, Traci is an amazing wife, mother of 2 boys, and a basset hound named Frisco. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Well, great. Well, tell us a little bit about what got you into pet wellness and therapy.
Yeah, I've been working at Pet Partners for the last decade, and it's really the leading therapy animal organization in the United States. And so when we talk about therapy animals, a lot of people kind of get confused with therapy animals versus service animals. So when you think of a
Yes.
service animal, that's a one-to-one relationship. Maybe there is a disability that that animal is helping their handler, their owner, their pet parent with. Whereas the therapy animal relationship, we like to think of it as a one to many relationship. You may just have a really social, really loving animal that you want to share with others. And so, what Pet Partners is doing is helping people to share the unconditional love of their own pets out in their community. So, we have thousands of these therapy animal teams. When I say team, that's the handler, the human end of the leash, and the animal. And they're going out and making millions of visits a year to anywhere where somebody just could benefit from that love that animals provide us. So, nursing homes, hospitals, schools, libraries, veteran centers, just anywhere where someone could just benefit from that unconditional love. So, my role at Pet Partners is really to help work with national partners to help roll out initiatives to raise awareness and funds for the organization because we're a nonprofit. And so, what we're really there to do is to support these amazing volunteers and these amazing therapy animals as they're going out into their own communities, really creating a happier and healthier world through that incredible bond between humans and animals. So it's been a pleasure to do it. And it's really, I get to work with people when they're at their best. Because when you're sharing your animal with others, you're having an impact. You feel good about that. A lot of times people are like, wait, I can go out, volunteer in my community, and bring my dog along. Sign me up. How do I do this? So I just work really hard to kind of help us to expand. The more folks that know about the value of this, that know about the benefits of this, we're able to just grow because there is an explosion of need, as I'm sure you all both know, just stress and social isolation and just things happening in people's lives. That need for this kind of activity has just exploded. And so at Pet Partners, we're just trying to encourage folks that may not have ever even considered this type of volunteerism to think about it. And we help to support them through the process.
Now, let me ask you a question, Traci. When you have these people that want to volunteer their pets, let's say, I mean, obviously, there's a process of making sure the pet is well behaved, that it, gets along with other people. Is there ever a time whenever the person doesn't have a pet, but they want to volunteer with someone's pet to be able to, you know, go around and talk to
Yeah.
people and that kind of thing? Does it work that way as well?
Yeah. Yeah, because not every like people assume since I work at Pet Partners, I probably have the perfect dog to be a Pet Partners registered therapy animal. That is not the case. My dog Frisco is stubborn. He does not have his basic obedience skills. He's sweet. He's loving. He's a great benefit to my family, but he's not really therapy dog material. But we get involved through other ways. So we have the world's largest pet walk, which is this amazing awareness activity where and fundraising activity where people celebrate the health benefits of getting out and walking and being active with their pets. So every year we do the Frisco and Friends team and we form a team for that. People sometimes we give a score like when you're doing the therapy animal program, a lot of times what'll happen is maybe it'll be like a dog trainer and you've gotten your puppy or you've adopted your pet and you've gone to get some basic obedience training. And sometimes it's the trainer that will pick up on this and will be like, your animal loves being around lots of people, is super social, but is also very obedient. Have you ever considered becoming a therapy animal team? And so somebody will often plant the seed. Or like I have a friend here, I'm in Virginia, a volunteer, and she was telling me how she got involved. It was because her neighbor their son had a health crisis. He was diagnosed with cancer and he was in the hospital. So she's just having small talk with her neighbor, this fellow mom, who's saying, you know, people bring gifts, people send cards, but do you know when he is lit up the most is when these little therapy dogs come into his hospital room. It just makes him so happy. And so hearing that story, my friend Margaret, who's now a handler, was inspired. She had a sweet little doodle named Elsa. She was like, wait, tell me more about this. And she was like, I think this is something I could do. You know, she felt inspired and called to do it. And so for us, what we do is we provide the handler course, which is really just the human end of the leash. What do I need to know to advocate for meaningful visits, but also safe and effective time, and also to pick up on the cues of your animal so that we don't want these animals to just kind of tolerate these visits. We want to have animals in our program that thrive when they're doing this, that look forward to doing this, that when their pet parent pulls out that little therapy animal vest, that their tail starts wagging and they know what's coming and they're excited about it. You know, they're just can't wait to go out and meet a bunch of new friends that day. And so we work really hard to prepare the handler and so that they're advocating for the humans that they're visiting, but also just as importantly for their pet who they're taking along to be a part of this. And so we have a careful process where you learn kind of your obedience, but also just that animal's demeanor that they just love being around people. They don't mind meeting strangers. They want to have a bunch of people maybe petting them or coming up to them, that type of thing. And so once you become registered with Pet Partners, you can do all this kind of comprehensive training to prepare you for this work. Your veterinarian signs off on a screening, and then you have your team evaluation, which is that in-person kind of assessment of are you suitable to do this work together as a team. It's really looking at how you work together as a team. So say you pass that test, you become registered with Pet Partners, then we'll help connect you with facilities in your area that are looking for therapy animal visits, that are inviting teams in to do that. But sometimes we'll have a team that gets, we don't say you failed, we say you get a not ready. And it's basically, you're not ready at this time, but here are some things you can work on. Go back, work on some of these. Because a lot of the evaluation is really kind of a role play of what you're going to encounter during a visit. So it would be 3 or 4 people bending down and petting your animal all at one time. Or maybe there's durable medical equipment like a walker or wheelchair. Sometimes an animal that might not be used to that equipment could react to that. So we put together some really thorough exercises so that you can demonstrate.
And I love that. What I do, I love that what y'all are doing with the training, because like when I worked at Children's Health, they had dogs specifically that were bred and born and then went right into the therapy, the therapy pet process at the hospital. But that's where they were bought specifically for that purpose. But what I'm understanding you to say is that you can take an animal like from someone's home that has a really good demeanor and personality, and you can make them a therapeutic animal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's often called facility animals, where it may be an animal who really is dedicated to one facility and spends their time there, but doing the
Yeah.
same kind of activities as
Yeah.
the therapy animal would do. For our program, it's mostly you are just a normal person that has a pet. and you decide you want to share that pet with others. And so maybe some of our folks may have went out and brought a pet into their family for the specific purpose of becoming a therapy animal volunteer, becoming a team together. And others may just, something may spark that interest or inspire them to do it. And so we help to make that possible. And I should mention, we do have, it's about 95% of our therapy animals are dogs, but we've actually registered 9 species. So there's also cats in our program.
Oh
We've
my gosh.
got mini horses, which they're so cute. The mini horses, they're about the size of large dogs, but they're so cute. And they go in and volunteer. We've got little pocket pets like bunnies and guinea pigs. And also, we even have a few kind of larger animals like llamas and alpacas. So there's 9 species of therapy animals in our program. And it's just wonderful because you can see faces light up, particularly when it may be one of these less common types of animals walking into a facility. Like imagine you're in your nursing home and you see this mini horse coming by for a visit. It just really, it makes people so excited. So
Well,
we have different,
animals
go
make
ahead.
me happy.
Oh,
I
yes.
get along with animals more than I do my co-host over here, Carla. So, I mean, animals. I remember when my daughter was in the hospital with epilepsy, they brought a dog around, and anytime someone's in the hospital, regardless of what the situation is, they need something to stimulate them to give them that love and that support. And sometimes not saying anything and just having a furry friend there is everything
Yeah.
they need, because I saw her face brighten up whenever she got to have a dog lay in the bed with her and just kind of keep her calm. Animals just make you happy. I don't care what they are. They just make you happy, right?
It's so hard to, I mean, you go home after a long day, it's been stressed, you put in a 12-hour day, you walk in your door and your pet just goes up to you,
Yeah.
loves you, the tail's wagging, they're so excited to see you.
Unconditionally.
Nothing is better than that welcome. Nothing.
Right. And I can tell you all are believers. So you wouldn't need any research study or any, scientific evidence that this is right. You just know in your heart, right? Like
Yes,
nobody loves me like my
100%.
pet. I can see my daughter was much happier when the animals came into our hospital room, those types of things. We just know it's true, many of us. But there's actually been research. We fund research at Pet Partners to really explore this to show that there is not just in our heart, we know it's true, but proven health benefits and also mental health benefits, emotional benefits. The whole human can benefit from this.
Today's episode is sponsored by Hudson Financial Group. At Hudson Financial Group, their goal is to make sure your life is fully covered. Do you truly understand your current insurance coverages? Are you protected for the things you need and not paying for the things you don't? Come by and let them help maximize and understand your coverage. With access to multiple carriers, they'll find the best protection at your best price for you. Whether it's home, auto, farm, and ranch commercial coverages, bonds, life insurance, or financial planning, Hudson Financial Group is your one-stop shop for insurance and retirement needs. Stop by today.
So something physical, like we'll have sometimes therapy animals that do activities to encourage participation, like in physical therapy. Say someone had a hip replacement and they have to get up and walk. What's better motivation to be like, wait, Poppy, the mini horse is going to come walk along with me? Yes, I'm going to get up out of this bed and do that.
Yeah.
It may be practicing, someone's had a stroke, practicing petting, the animal's coat, doing these physical activities. But then there's that whole like emotional benefit where we know for a fact they are helping us to reduce stress, reduce our blood pressure, even increase those feel good hormones in our body, um, just bring a lot of calm to a situation. And so the benefits that you saw with your daughter, that animal is probably also making the hospital staff feel a little brighter, the parents, the family members, the
100%.
healthcare workers. They are just kind of bringing something to the environment that's hard to articulate, but everybody knows what it means. You just light up and you feel a lot better. So one of the things I did was kind of launch and work through a workplace well-being program, which was a benefit of the workplace, where companies started coming to us asking, would you consider having some therapy animals come in just to our workplace over our lunch, just for a little bit of time to just reduce stress and make people feel better. And so we piloted it with Aetna up at their headquarters in Connecticut first. And we didn't even know, like, would our teams enjoy doing this? Would the employees care? we just didn't know. So we were like, let's try it, let's see. And so we ended up having just a group of maybe about 4 or 5 of our therapy dogs come in with their handlers to spend just lunch hour basically with folks, just meet and greet. And then because it was in a part of the building that they kind of scanned into, they knew who had come. So they sent a little post questionnaire survey out like, did you feel better after this? What do you think? Would you like them to come back? And we were blown away because and this isn't folks, spending 2 hours. They would stop by for 15 minutes, oh, let me pet this golden retriever, let me see this doodle, whatever. And they were saying not only did they go back to their desk feeling less stressed, but they felt more productive. Like, okay, I'm going to finish my day strong. They felt more focused. They also said they felt a stronger sense of team because, somebody from accounting might not ever interact with someone in a different department. But as they're sitting on the floor, playing with these dogs, they're meeting colleagues that they wouldn't normally interact with and bonding over. Got their own phones out going, but this is my dog, isn't he cute? Or this is my cat, isn't she adorable? And so it built this whole kind of benefit that we didn't even anticipate. And then I was asking the handlers, like, I know you tend to focus on what we might refer to as more vulnerable populations, like going to the children's hospital or going to the hospice. Like, how did you feel about going into a workplace where it was really just for the benefit of people's mood for that day? And I'll never forget one of the handlers. She was like, oh my gosh, now that we've been going a few times, when we pull into that corporate parking garage, my dog just knows where we're going. And it's like we're going for his spa
I
treatment.
love that. That is so cool. They have bring your daughter to work day, bring your son to work day. They should have a bring your pet to work day.
Well,
You might get a boa constrictor or something. Who knows?
We're starting to see that more and more is folks are trying to kind of say, what are some of the benefits of being pet friendly? And for some, being pet friendly may mean inviting therapy animals in for a couple of hours. For others, it may be on a certain day of the week. You can bring your pet in as long as it's friendly with other pets or whatever. But there's definitely that benefit there because we all feel that a little sense of calm. It brightens our day. And it's just really an exciting time in the office to have our pets involved.
I'm sure this really picked up over COVID because we know mental health statistics through the pandemic have really changed. And we saw that uptick in depression, anxiety, and a lot of other phobias, things like that. So we saw that mental health, grow, the need for mental health care grow. I'm wondering if you guys saw that too in your business as you're coming back to work and people are really anxious about it. Has this been really effective?
Yeah, it's been in the workplace, it's been effective because many people now are being asked to go back into the workplace after spending a lot of time at home with their own pets. They're working with their pets on their lap, and now they're being asked to go back into the workplace. And so having the therapy animals come in and show that company values the human animal bond in that relationship, I think has been really important. So we've helped people to create a warm work environment that is part of that hybrid experience that so many companies are going to at this point. As far as the facility side of things, we are still, even this many years out of the pandemic, seeing a steady uptake. Just last year, for instance, our requests for visits went up 20%. And we're coupling that with the need because we lost a lot of our teams during the COVID pandemic. Because think about the little lifespan of animals. It's much shorter than humans. That's the sad part about animals. They just don't live as long as we do. And so many of them, when they had that, even if it's just a few years interruption where you couldn't go into facilities, we were isolating and, being safe. A lot of teams retired at that time or the animal passed away right at the same time when we weren't able to bring new teams on. We couldn't do the evaluations. We couldn't conduct the necessary steps.
Oh,
And so we saw a decrease in the number of our therapy animal teams that were still working to get back up to the original counts that we had, coupled with an increase in the request for visits. So it's a tricky time for us in that we want everyone who could benefit from a therapy animal visit to get one, obviously, to have that happen. But we still have communities that don't have enough therapy animal teams to really meet the request for needs. During the pandemic, it was so inspiring though, because many of these therapy animals, they go on a regular basis to facilities. And so they're friends, they're best friends. For some people, for seniors, like think about a nursing home or a senior care community, that may be the only visitor that they get on an ongoing basis. The animal teams that come in once a week and have built a rapport and a friendship with them. And so all of a sudden, when they weren't able to go in, like, what can we do? So they were doing just like we were doing in other aspects of their lives. They're getting on Zoom calls, they're doing virtual visits. But we had teams that did these little pet parades where they would put all these signs on their cars, like, we miss you. And the animals would be in the car and they're
Oh, I
driving
love that
past and the
so
people are
much.
waving. We had teams that they would stick a little peanut butter on the door so the animals like licking the patient's door so that they're visiting through the they were so I loved it. They were so creative to because they just the most important thing was we haven't forgotten you. We will be there as soon as it's safe for us to be there. But in the meantime, we're just going to show you that we're thinking about you. So they
Oh,
were
I
so
love
creative and
that.
so
I
fun.
do love that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things that you can do with pets. I was wondering though, Tracy, if you could tell us, how does that work with like special developmental needs clients, like whether they have Down syndrome or autism? Do you see it's really effective with populations, that are working through disabilities?
Yeah, we have a lot of our teams that are passionate. This is the beauty of pet partners is you can visit and focus on maybe a population that you want a population that you're really passionate about that you want to serve. So for some people that may be folks that have intellectual disabilities and it's really going in and helping. It might be in a classroom setting. I've spoken to many of our handlers that go into classrooms where the students have special needs, and it may be through, think about like a literacy challenge, for example. So some
Mm.
folks struggle with reading. One of our programs is called Read With Me, and there's all kinds of proof and evidence, research that shows that kids that are struggling to read develop a little anxiety around having to read to an adult. So if they have to read to a parent or have to read to a teacher, they're worried, what if I say a word wrong? What if I get that sentence wrong? What if I pronounce something incorrectly? They don't want to let the person that they're reading to down. But when they're asked to read to an animal, they know immediately that this little dog is not going to judge me if I miss a word, if I make a mistake, if I get hung up and can't sound something out. And so it creates this kind of calm space, safe space for them to read and practice reading. And so we have tons of teams that do our Read With Me program where the dog is loving, I mean, they're loving life. They're sitting on a cozy carpet and a child's petting them and showing them pictures and reading them a book. And the teachers and the parents are so thrilled because for once the child isn't associating being asked to read with something that's scary or gives them anxiety. It's something that they look forward to and can't wait to do. But we also have special kind of educational opportunities for folks that may want to volunteer in other ways. So we have a course on volunteering with veterans who have PTSD. We have a handler education course where you can volunteer specifically, learn about volunteering specifically with people that have Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia and how to
Wow.
conduct those types of visits. We also have what's called our animal assisted crisis response program, which is really think about, and people have seen these coverage on the news when the therapy animals come in, but think about like if there's an unfortunate and unexpected tragedy in a community. So there may be a school shooting or a natural disaster. Like we just had a ton of teams volunteer in the wildfires in California. We had the teams
Wow.
went to help first responders after the bridge collapse in Baltimore, things like that. So we have a special kind of trauma informed credential that's beyond the normal pet partners registration process that if you choose to, some may say that's not for me. I don't want to do that. But others may say, I really want to be prepared should something happen in my community that is a tragedy that is causing folks to have stress. And could I go in and just offer that simple form of support? And is having a therapy animal there going to solve everyone's problems that are huge and these big things? No, but sometimes that small gesture of love and that small gesture of support is really, really meaningful. And so we have teams that choose to help after crisis events as well.
It's really interesting to me because there's so many different kinds of therapy that are specific to certain kinds of mental health issues. But as you're sitting here talking, Tracy, what I'm realizing is the pet therapy intertwines in everything. It's
Yeah.
on a wide spectrum. You can use it in almost any kind of mental health issue.
Yeah, and we've seen the benefits are the same. We'll see, I'm always amazed. I'll hear teams that will share their experiences during visits, and they may be warned, like say it may be a staff member at a senior care community where they're like, don't expect too much from this resident. They don't really share a lot. They're really quiet. They keep to themselves. and they'll go in and the person will just light up and say, "Oh, this reminds me of my dog I had when I was a
Yeah.
little boy." And they'll start recollecting about happy memories of a cherished family pet. Or it may be, a patient in a hospital that's really struggling with their treatment, but they get that little extra boost of motivation to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to participate in my physical therapy, even though it's hard and I don't feel like getting out of this bed, because they're excited and energized by that special animal's presence. And it just, it, it's it's kind of a miracle when you think of some of the impact that happens with something that's so simple. Just spending a little time greeting someone and sharing your pet with them can have a huge impact. We had an animal in our program, oh, Bellin. It was this beautiful dog, since crossed the Rainbow Bridge. But when Bellin was alive, he volunteered, and he had come from a horribly abusive background. His handlers rescued him from a situation where he was like emaciated, tied up to a chain in a yard, and just did not have a good, happy, healthy life as a dog. Luckily, he was rescued by a couple, and as they built that rapport and took care of him and nursed him back to health, they realized he'd make a great therapy animal. And they ended up working with children who had experienced abuse. And,
Wow.
they told me this story about this little girl petting Belle and saying, "It's okay, Belle, and I was hurt too." Like
Oh,
having that same experience and bonding over that. I
And they
just met a
bonded over
little,
it. Yeah.
yeah, their shared experience. I met a cat recently named Lola Pearl, and she was born missing one of her limbs. And she was adopted by a human that also wears a prosthetic limb. And
Oh.
so they volunteer at limb loss support groups. So imagine you've just had an amputation, you're dealing with this huge change in your life. And so they go
Yeah.
to support groups. So it's a little cat that has a little prosthetic limb and the handler who's also navigated this change in her own life. And they go and spend time with folks facing the same thing. So you can feel that connection through the animals, but also through the handlers. And it's just so
well,
powerful. And
and
that's why
that's
we
the
love that the
th-
handlers kind of, yeah,
that's
go
the
ahead.
one thing I was going to ask you, which you just clarified because I have a one-eyed rescue cat. He's only got one eye, and
He's so
he
cute.
he is cute. But
Aw, he's
it's
just winking at you.
connect me, girl, because I'll definitely take my cat with me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's I think it's important for what you just said because a lot of people think that animals, that are bred or you've raised it, but there's a an outlet here for people that want to rescue animals because I believe in rescuing animals that have been given up, right? And there's hope
Mhm.
there for those animals as well as the people because you just told me a story of an animal being rescued and then connecting with people after it was rescued. I think that's so important too because it encourages people to go to these shelters and try to rescue an animal to keep it from being euthanized. Thank God we've got a lot of
Right.
rescue shelters that don't euthanize, but the ones that still do, I think that's encouraging for people to be able to contribute that way and be able to give back.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that if an animal's been severely abused, that it really can't be reformed or it won't have a personality that could do something like this. But what you're saying is, once they're with a loving handler, that they are able to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah, many times. I mean, every animal is different, and that's one of the things that we really prepare the handlers is that they're their best. It's a little acronym we call YAYA, but it's you are your animal's best advocate. And it's really kind of figuring out, is this the right volunteer opportunity for my pet, or is this a good fit? Do they enjoy this? Do they thrive in this? And then say they do, it's also picking the setting that's right for you and your
Hmm.
animal. So some people may start out and they say, okay, we're going to work in a kindergarten classroom. I love kids. I think my pet's going to love it too. And they find out, oh my goodness, maybe 30 kids in this classroom is a little much for my dog. I actually have found out he prefers to volunteer just with one person, visiting a quiet room at a hospital or something. So it's that kind of picking up on what is best for you, what is best for your pet, because that's really important. So we even have what's called canine body language course where you can take to kind of pick up on your animal's stress signals because they can't say, "Hey, this is a little much for me. I don't know if I want to come back here." But they can, put their ears back or lick their lips or yawn a lot of times, like little symbols that we wouldn't even recognize. But once you kind of learn their body language, you can pick up on that and think, they might be a little stressed. Maybe we should cut this meeting a little short today, or maybe we should try out a different setting that's not this exactly the same level of energy or interaction or whatever. So we're always looking for ways to really make sure our teams find that sweet spot of they're making an impact, they're helping humans that want these visits, but they've also found a setting that really is comfortable and happy for their pet too, because that's really important.
It's so amazing. I mean, I love everything that you're talking about because I think there's a lot of, you know, information that people don't understand about these kind of programs and how they develop these animals to do these things. But I love all the education that you give not only the handlers but to the animals as well. It's just amazing. So, how do people get involved in this? How do they know if their pet is going to be a good fit for this program?
They can check out petpartners.org. That's our website. And on there, there's a lot of information about the process of becoming a therapy animal team, the types of qualities that you may look for in your pet, ways to get started, and also learn about some of the ways that you can go volunteer and share your animal in the community. We also do regular sessions, info sessions, webinars, information to answer questions and really walk people through the process. If you're on the facility side of things and you're thinking, I might want to invite pet partners into my facility to do visits or my workplace or my organization, there's a place on our website as well where you can post a request for teams to come to the area. So that's another thing we do at Pet Partners is we connect folks with facilities that are seeking visits. And so you can post a request, tell a little bit about why you think therapy animals would be welcomed into your facility and the types of people that will be benefiting. And that way, our teams that are looking for visit opportunities can find you and make direct contact and say, hey, here's, I'd love to come visit. Let me learn more. So we try to connect folks with visit opportunities in their communities, which is really important. And then we also, like I said, we have ways for folks that might not currently have an animal that's suitable for therapy animal work to get involved as well. Our upcoming, it's September 27th, is our world's largest pet walk. And that's where folks just get out and walk with their pets. We have lots of corporate teams that participate in that and friends and family teams. And it's just a fun way to gather folks together to walk with their pets, to raise money for pet partners and to get active. There's huge health benefits, by the way, of having a pet in your life. We know that people that have a pet are way more active. They go out, they walk their pets. It's so funny because you also become social in your neighborhood too. It kind of addresses that
Yes.
social isolation, but it's kind of embarrassing sometimes because I'll know every pet's name, but I don't always know the human's name. And I'm like, now it's too late to ask, but I know your dog's name from walking every day and greeting your dog, but I might not remember the human's name. But it
That is
does,
something, but
there's a
it's
lot
so
of health.
true. I do see people connecting more when they have animals in their life. You see people who are really
Yeah,
shy or maybe more introverted, they come out of those shells. I mean, we've all been
yeah,
to, the pet parks where you go out there, the dog parks, and everyone, it's a community of
It
people
is.
that have already connected just by taking their pets
Yeah.
out there to run and play.
yeah. It's a natural way that draws us together many times. We're drawn together. I'll be out walking going, can I meet your pet? Because I always
Yeah.
want to meet a new pet all the time. I'll ask, is it okay if I pet your dog? I'll ask permission first, but it's like, I always get drawn to that. And then it'll create just that connection that's so important. We all just feel a lot happier, I think, with
Yeah.
animals in our lives. And
I
it
think we
definitely has its place.
forget. I think we forget that.
Yeah.
We forget that
Yeah.
we are meant to be with other people, that we're meant to be part of a community. And I think, just with the
Hmm.
way society is, and especially after a pandemic where people were so isolated, they think, oh, I can do this alone or
Right.
I'm so independent. But you find yourself not being nearly as happy as you are when you do connect.
Yeah, and the connection, I think, with the animals, we see that with our program, with our therapy animal program, the staff at the facilities, the family members, the folks that they're visiting. It's just a true sense of connection, and it's unconditional love. We never
Mm.
feel anything but unconditional love when we get home. Like you said, you get home from a 12-hour day, you've worked hard. Who greets you with the warmest welcome of everyone in the family? It's usually the pet. They're so excited to see you no matter what. And it's
It
just
is
that
just the
I think
amazing
everyone wants to
feeling.
feel that.
Yeah, I think that's the
Exactly.
biggest thing for me with my animals I've had. I've had dogs, I've had cats, but I think the biggest thing is that unconditional piece right there you just said, Tracy, because they love you on your good days, they love you on your bad days. They love you when you're lazy. I mean, it's just that unconditional peace that we don't get from humans, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but it's true. We don't get that unconditional perspective from a human being that we get from an animal. Um, they're always excited to be around you, you know?
And I was just thinking, right now it's like the end of the school season for college campuses. And I know after the pandemic, a lot of college campuses bring in dogs and other therapy pets to kind of help the students with anxiety. I also know that they do this during their finals weeks. And so
Yes.
do you know that y'all doing those things with college campuses?
Oh my gosh, so many of those de-stress events. We do college campus visits, just like you said, during the end of year, during finals time. Also, we've started doing some during the beginning when it's like freshmen are going to
Yes.
move
Yeah.
away from their families for the first time ever.
Yes.
So we'll do welcome events with the animals. We have visits at kind of, when you think about therapy animal programs, you tend to think more about the traditional settings like the hospitals or the nursing homes or things like that. But we've now started, as people understand the benefits, they're learning more about therapy animals. We're doing less common settings. So lots more classrooms, libraries, but also even like we have tons of teams that do like airport visits where, oh my gosh, you're so stressed, you're so amped up, you're trying to meet your deadlines, get through security, your kids might be flying for the first time ever, it's the holidays, it's crowded. Like we'll have teams that just fit during, like they'll do like airport visits. We've got these kind of workplace visits. I have more and more, we're hearing more around like courtroom visits. Like we have one of our
Oh.
corporate partners where, her daughter had to do a really tough, she had to testify in an abuse case, and so being a little child and having to testify in court, how scary is that? And so we have some therapy animals that do visits in courtroom settings, things like that. And so it's just really interesting to understand that communities now really are seeing this is a benefit. And if there is someone in need because they're facing a health challenge or a stressful time or something new or something unknown, an experience they've never experienced before, that sometimes that just calm presence of an animal there, even research shows, even if it's just 15 minutes, very short amount of time it takes, that people can feel better, feel more secure, feel less stressed just with that animal. So we're starting to see this kind of not just increase in the number of visits that are being requested, but the types, the setting, the location, the populations of those that are being served there. It's just really interesting. And I think that's why
It's
it can
so
be such an
interesting.
Well, I mean,
enriching
I just heard
volunteer
sitting there talking
opportunity.
about
Yeah.
the courtroom.
I
Like I would
know.
have never even thought
She
about that.
keeps
So I'm like,
bringing
she's
up
bringing up stuff that
different-
I never even
I know.
thought that's perfect because
It's amazing. I mean, it's just the wide range of areas where this is going to be so effective. And Traci, you just keep highlighting
I
those
know,
one
it's,
after
like,
the other.
amazing.
And I'm just like, wow, the amount of work we can do on mental health care just with animals is just phenomenal.
So Traci, is there an area that you guys haven't been able to tap into that is of interest to you guys?
I feel like what we try to do is listen to our handlers, our volunteers that are out there doing it. And sometimes we'll hear about a setting and we're like, we've never even thought about that. And so what we do try to do is keep that conversation going. We've really tried to build a pet partners community so that they can share with one another. And so they may have questions like, have you ever visited this setting? What do you do when you go here? And that's where we just try to facilitate that connection. And then when we do see something that's becoming more and more of a frequent ask of ours, we try to create that support. So our crisis response program is a perfect example. It's been around for a few years, but it was like we were just having more teams being like, we've been asked to go into this community after this earthquake or this wildfire or this school shooting or this, whatever. And we need to make sure we're prepared to do this. So we created and worked with folks that have that kind of expertise in trauma and crisis to help us create this program. So talk to me in a few months. I'll be like, oh my gosh, Brandy, Carla, guess what we're doing now? Because somebody will come to us and tell us, we actually
I love
launched
that.
a whole other sister organization. 3 years ago, we launched AAAIP, which is the Association of Animal Intervention Professionals, because no one was really helping this audience, but this is folks that are not volunteers sharing their animal, but these are professionals. So think of a physical therapist, a school guidance counselor, a mental
Yeah.
health professional, people that are working professionally but want to incorporate an animal into their professional
There you
practice.
go.
And so they were coming to us asking, like, how do I do this? So we started just as a result of realizing this is a different type of animal assisted activity. This is not the same as a volunteer going into a facility, but we need to make sure that these professionals are supported as well. So future podcast for you is we could talk about
Yes.
the professional side.
I
It's
love that. I I would love for you to
helping
highlight
so
a
many people.
story of an animal and a handler and then a specific difference they made in someone's life.
Oh my goodness, there's just so many. It's hard
To pick
to
one,
think of
tell me
just
two or
one,
three.
but yeah. Oh my, I know. It's so well. We had I remember we filmed a video of a young man named Jalen, and he was injured in an accident, and he was burned over a large portion of his body. He lost one of his arms, and he was young. I mean, probably early 20s. And I just remember this sweet little, because it stuck with me because it was a basset hound. You know, you always are attracted
Mm.
when you have a dog. So I have a basset hound. And so I heard the story of Peaches, the basset hound down in Georgia, visiting with this young man. And he was really, the staff at the hospital were really struggling to motivate him to participate in his physical therapy. He was having a lot of, depression about what had happened to him physically. So there were the physical problems that they were working on to address, but quite honestly, the hospital staff said what they were more concerned with was his mental health and dealing with this change that his life had thrown him. And little Peaches the Basset Hound kind of waddles in and starts visiting him on the regular. And he said, I want to get my physical therapy done because they would say, once you do your PT, then you can go visit with the dogs. So he's like, I started trying to get that done, really participating, knock these things out that I was supposed to do so that I could have more time with Peaches when Peaches the Basset Hound came, because it was just such a bright spot of his day. And it was just a simple thing, this sweet little
Yes.
short dog, going in, but it made
So
a
cute,
real
the floppy
difference in
ears.
his, yes, it made a real difference in his focus of getting better and participating and taking an active role in his recovery, but then also just those mental health benefits of I have something to look forward to. Peaches is coming today, which was just really exciting for him.
Well, and the reverse thing of that is, these animals are helping humans, but it's interesting. I don't know how many times, Tracy, I've said, I wish I could understand my cat or my dog when they're, giving that love, because you have to wonder how much this impacts the animals as well, because these guys they're doing something good. I'm sure it's making them excited to be able to give back, even though they can't speak to us, right?
Oh my gosh, I've seen so many little video clips and heard so many stories of it, because a lot of times they'll have these therapy animals, they're family pets first and foremost, but they have this role where they go out in the community. So a lot of times, not always, but they'll wear either their little therapy animal bandana or their little vest, and they only wear that when they're going on a visit. And so I have so many handlers that'll be like, oh my gosh, I go to the closet and get their little vest out, and they just light up. Their tails are wagging so fast, their body can't keep up, because they know what that means. They're going to hop in the car, they're going to go somewhere, and they're going to be able to do what they do. It's like some of us were meant to be rock stars, and some of them were meant to be therapy animals, and that's their role. Like, they are the rock star of their world because they're going out, they're gaining fans. They have people adoring them from near and far. A lot of our teams have these little, it's still so sweet. It's like their business cards, but it's like their little trading cards. And so it has like the pet's picture and like their favorite hobbies and where they visit. It's just
I
like their little
love
stat
that.
card. And sometimes, like, even with the workplace visits, like I've had HR folks where we've worked for the visits, and they're like, oh my gosh, I still see, 6 months later, those little trading cards are up on folks' bulletin boards. They're hanging in their cubicles where people just want to remember that I was visited by this sweet therapy dog. And so it's just, I think people remember that little special light in their day. And it's just a happy memory for some. And those that are lucky enough to have ongoing visits, they just really become friends. They're friends that they look forward to spending time with. And so I think that goes both ways. I think the animals feel the love that the humans are showing them. When they're getting pet, when they're feeling that energy of enthusiasm and someone's face lights up. I've also heard a lot of the teams that just understand. They'll be like, I just don't know how my dog knows this or my cat knows this, but they know just what the person needs.
They
And so
do,
if
don't
they
they?
get,
They know
They
so much
do.
more. We don't give animals enough credit.
They are so smart.
Yeah.
They're
so
so
smart and
intuitive. They
drawn
understand
to,
things. They understand our emotions sometimes even before we
I think they even
them.
understand illnesses
Yeah.
that we may not know about, an animal is aware of.
yeah, I have handlers that often share with us that they just, their animals have a sense of being drawn to people that they know need that love the most that day. And, or they'll spend a little extra time in that room with that person. They just have an innate sense of, a feeling that I think I can bring something to this person that they really need right now.
Well, I know just having this interview today, I was excited
100%.
about thinking about just talking about animals in general, but just knowing, because it's just like you said, Traci, we think of service dogs or service animals and we think of therapy animals. And I think a lot of times people have gotten in this heightened, like almost some people that just want to pick apart someone that's a therapy dog, like they're not supposed to be doing what they're doing. And I'm like, whoa, we need to understand these animals are not just helping one individual, they're helping probably thousands of individuals get through a day-to-day life that they're struggling through. And I
Yeah.
think that it's becoming more and more accepted, but the evidence is there. I mean, with just your foundation alone growing the way it has, and it becomes normal for people now.
Well, I'm also thinking, mental health care can be expensive. If you don't have insurance and you're trying to get mental health care, it's really hard. Many people cannot afford it, and so they don't get the help that they need. But I'm thinking about these animals and the impact they have at such a little cost. And, it could really make a difference in someone's mental health and can really change the trajectory of how they heal.
Yeah, absolutely. The benefits are real. Our therapy animal teams only go into facilities that they're invited into, and that's something that's the difference too with service animals is that they have guaranteed access into places. Therapy animals are
Right.
really, they have to be invited in. So they're going where someone has requested that visit and that time. And the number of facilities asking for these visits and really recognizing the benefits and wanting to have more of that for the folks that they're serving is it's evident that there is just an increase in the interest of having this because they've seen this benefit firsthand. They've seen people smile that haven't or begin to come out of their shell and interact with others in a way that is stimulated by spending time with the animals and just there's the physical benefits, but that mental kind of well-being benefits that we see from the animals, it's, it's just immediate for some people that just the expression on their face, you'll see that. And our volunteers want to help those in their communities. And so it provides a really powerful way for someone. I mean, think of it. We all want to make a difference. We all want to make the world a little bit happier if we can. And so the fact that there's this opportunity that you may already be a pet parent and have an animal, and you're hearing this and you're thinking, wait, this sounds like something my dog would be great
I want to
at,
do it.
I can see her
Yeah.
one-eyed little
Yeah.
kitty cat out there.
Yeah.
Traci, it has just been such a pleasure having you on the show, and you have opened my eyes to so many more areas of mental health care that I feel like are just starting to untouch and starting to realize how impactful pets and mental health can be.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's so amazing to talk to other people that realize this great need and are open to creative or new ways to really support folks in their mental well-being. And animals is definitely one of those paths.
So if someone wants to connect to you, we're going to put everything in the information part of whenever we get ready to go on the platform social media. But tell someone how they can reach out to you if they are interested in teaming up with you and helping out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say go to petpartners.org. We have a contact us form on there, whatever you're specifically interested in, whether it's becoming a therapy animal team yourself, inviting therapy animals into your facility, getting involved as a corporate partner or sponsor, just let us know. And then I'll make sure that the right person at Pet Partners connects with you to start that conversation. There is a way for everyone in various roles in various parts of the country with various types of animals to really support what we're doing. We're really inclusive in that it's multiple species of animals. We have teams all across the country, even in 15 other countries outside of the United States. And there's so many different types of facilities. And as we discussed today, so many different types of places and priorities that you can look at of how you want to share your animal and what is the best fit. And so I'm just excited when anyone gives us the opportunity to kind of just share a little bit more information, maybe spark a little interest, have folks kind of think about how they could fit into this, maybe even inspire someone to explore this as a volunteer opportunity for themselves in their own lives with their current animal, or to make plans when they're looking at bringing a new animal into their family to consider, oh my goodness, maybe I could consider an animal that might be well suited for therapy animal work. It's just, it's a great way to have a profound impact on your community, but also do something that's just really, it's a simple interaction that can have a really profound and big impact. And I think that's so important for us. We're busy. We're doing so many things. We're supporting our own families, but we want to give back to our community. And so the idea of maybe being able to share our pet with others and just brighten someone's day that might look forward to that more than anything. I think it's really powerful. We want to have that impact. So I appreciate you all allowing me to hopefully communicate this idea with someone who may not have even considered it.
Well, thank you so much, Traci, and kudos to your handlers and your beautiful little therapy animals that are doing
Yes.
such an amazing job. We so appreciate you spreading the word, being on our show, and we can't wait to see what happens in the future with Pet Partners.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please reach out to talk to someone you trust. Get connected to a mental health professional who can help you find ways to cope and ultimately feel better. If you are having suicidal or self-harm thoughts or thoughts of hurting another person, please go to the nearest ER, call 911, or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988. Thank you for tuning in to Mental Perk. We hope our talk today highlighted real people working through real issues based on mental health. Our goal at Mental Perk is to make sure every one of you knows
You're worthy. We're in this together.